Well, did the Broncos get an alpha pass rusher? Well, they got a fantastic one with upside in Jonah Ellis. Orange and Blue today, Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason here to talk about Ellis and the expectations here, Mace. Let's break down what we saw, the little that we saw at rookie minicamp, and talk about the future for this young man.
Individual work because he's still working his way back from shoulder surgery. It was a 6-month process. We're close to the end of that. Looked like he was moving well in individual work, as you'd expect. It was an upper body injury. Lower body, still well conditioned, still looking good there. I think the questions in terms of where he is after the shoulder injury, they're not going to be adequately answered until you start getting full pads on and start finding out what his upper body strength is when he has to take on those tackles and tight ends, when he's engaged with them as they're trying to keep him from wreaking havoc on the quarterback.
Well, we always say, Mace, watch what they do, not what they say, and they chose to go with Jonah Ellis. Mm-hmm. Jonah Ellis was a player they were targeting. I don't think we yet know who the player was tied, but the positional value here for this young man being an edge that could be that number one alpha, it sets him far and above, well, let alone his skill set, Mace. But that positional value, incredibly important for the construct of this team.
Absolutely. And again, when you're constructing a roster, it's quarterback, edge rusher, number one corner, pass protecting tackle. I mean, those are the big four. And that's why when you get to day two edges, they're there for a reason. They have intriguing skill sets, like Nick Bonito had an intriguing skill set 2 years ago, but they are available for a reason. In the case of Jonah Ellis, for example, part of it was the injury had a little bit of a factor. More of a factor is looking at how there was high-level production for a burst of time, but not something that was sustained over the course of the college career. So when you look last year at getting, at all of a sudden breaking through and getting 8 sacks in 5 games, 10 sacks, 8 sacks in 4 games, 10 sacks in 5 games. Is that what he can be? It was 10 sacks in 6 games. What is this? Like, is Jonah Ellis, that ceiling that he reached last year, is this something that he can replicate on a consistent basis? If he'd done it on a more consistent basis, Cease, he's not a 3rd-round pick. He's a 1st-round pick. We're talking about him in the same vein of Dallas Turner and Laiatu Latu, right? Mm-hmm. But it came in a burst. Can that burst be channeled and repeated? Well, that's what we're going to find out.
And one thing you and I also bring up is the fact that players can improve. Players can get better. And with pro coaching, this guy is not going to fail due to lack of effort. The effort is off the charts. And it's more than just a hustle guy. I don't want to do the Tim Tebow. Everybody working hard. Like, everybody works hard. But it's about a down-to-down basis when you are just as sharp in the first quarter as you are in the fourth quarter when you're dog-tired.
Yes, exactly. And that's where variety of moves can come in as well, because what you wanted, it's not only what your stamina is, but it's also how many different things can you throw at an opposing tackle to confuse them. Number of moves, the ability to stack moves. I mean, it's hard not to be impressed when you watch him spin past the inside shoulder. Like, that excites you. It's not hard to be excited also at the fact that he can be an effective pass rusher from multiple spots. He's a chess piece. You can move him around. I foresee one of the first uses of him, in fact, being as an occasional A-gap blitzer. I think that's something that you can have flexibility with. And also, it allows you to go heavy at edge and still find time for him. I mean, the Broncos may have 5 edges and have all of them active on a game day. How do you find spots for all of them? Well, you find proper situations. And for Jonah Ellis, it might be that occasional A-gap blitzer coming in on sub-package downs. So All of that comes into play. And I think that broad skill set in terms of the moves that he has and in terms of the positional versatility that he has from where he can attack the quarterback, these are things that I can see why they intrigue the Broncos so much.
Yeah, very interesting there. And hey, there's a NASCAR package. Mm-hmm. You could easily have that. 4 stand-up guys, just go get the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, who was your 4B in that vein?
Oh boy, Cooper's got to be on the field, right?
I think you have to have Cooper because he's the steady. He's Mr. Reliable, Mr. Dependable.
Right.
I think you have Baron Browning.
Yes.
And I think you have Jonah Ellis, and I think you have Nick Bonito. And I think you have Cooper and Bonito on the edges. And Baron Browning, who did start for you at inside linebacker in 2021, and Jonah Ellis are your 2 guys who are perched ever so threateningly over the A gaps.
Mm-hmm.
And giving the opposing center and guards an awful lot to think about. You know, you're showing blitz, maybe you're pulling back, or maybe you're dropping them back, but then you blitz them. There's some opportunities here. That may well be the first thing that we see Jonah Ellis doing a lot of is sub-package A-gap blitzer.
And coming in with all of those moves, Mace, something that he talked about on Saturday. Here's what Jonah Ellis said about his multitude of moves.
On your college tape, I counted 6 or 7 moves that you've got. What's your favorite one?
6 or 7. Honestly, I thought I had 3. I like double swipe, spin, and speed to bowl.
You love that spin.
Yeah, those are probably my 3 favorites.
Where'd you learn that from? Where'd you pick that up?
I mean, my dad taught it to me when I was young, but that was like kind of before I was an edge rusher. And then he kind of helped me like refine it, and Coach Powell, and I work out with this guy named Anton too, and all 3 of them really just mix in all their like perspectives on the move and how to do it, and I kind of just like took all 3 of them and meshed it into one.
He's very learned in what he does. Yes. When he said that, I wanted to ask him, I was again distracted by Chris Thomas's sweater, but I want to ask him, like, when you were in Pop Warner, were you just working fools? Because he had the benefit of his dad, and you and I covered his dad with the Broncos for 1 year.
Tells you how old we are.
Yeah, that's fine. But it's like, man alive, this guy has got such a wealth of knowledge, a knowledge of how to work, knowledge of how to be a pro, knowledge of pass rushing moves. And that's why, and he doubled up because he had speed to power, speed to bowl or whatever. But I'm like, okay, he has speed, he has power, he has a rip, he has a swim, he has a spin, and he has a chop move. And then I think he slid in one that I didn't even count. So there's 7 moves.
Yeah, I think he was selling himself a little bit short at first, but it's a variety. It makes him really hard for an opponent to prepare for when he's got that variety of moves. Now, that being said, when things are breaking down, what's the one? Like, what's the bread and butter move? To me, it's the spin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And, and specifically to me, it's the spin to the inside shoulder. Because, first of all, geometry, inside shoulder, closer to the quarterback, you're going to get there. You're going to get there more quickly. But I thought he did a good job taking advantage of some of the longer tackles that he faced with that spin, getting them a little bit off balance there, and then getting the quarterback. That accounted for multiple sacks that he had over the course of his time at Utah. So that's, you always want to have the one thing, like I don't know if you ever saw Tin Cup. It's going to be a second golf thing in a couple of days here on this show. But the scene where Roy breaks all the clubs, but the 7-iron. He doesn't go wrong with the 7-iron. He plays 7-iron for the rest of the qualifying round there for the qualifying round on his way to the U.S. Open. To me, the spin is Jonah Ellis' 7-iron. It's the thing it's going to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's going to be there. It's going to work. And what's cool is, and we got a couple of clips on this, on Ellis talking about Nix at Oregon and Ellis talking about Nix in practice. He knows his guy. He knows now his quarterback because, trying to perform against this guy. And I think that's an extra little bit of competition right? And you can't sack him in practice. And again, he wasn't only out there for individuals recovering from the shoulder. But I think that's another fun thing for fans to get excited about, because you've got college opponents, now teammates, and there might be a little chirping during training camp. Like, I would have got you on that one. You know what I mean? And I think that's another special. They got a special group of rookies, man. We've been doing this whole week. We got a Sunday show. We got all this stuff for you guys. And each show that we do on these rookies, they got some special kids here.
It's hard not to be impressed by this group.
Yes.
High football IQ, football character, brought in as much for the brain as anything physical. That's an exciting thing. It's Sean Payton's team. I mean, I think he seemed to have a spring in his step last weekend at rookie minicamp, and I think that came from a place of realizing, I got my group here. I got a group I can win with, right? Maybe not today, but they're taking the steps in the right direction. Like, you're building pieces. You're filling in the jigsaw puzzle. I think that's exciting to Sean Payton.
Now it's time to let the youth gone wild. I had to get that in there. Anyway, here's Jonah Ellis talking about Nix from his Oregon days and how they had to go up against each other.
On your college tape, I counted 6 or 7 moves that
Crap, that was the wrong one. Sorry.
He got rid of the ball really freaking fast. We knew, and I had a couple hurries on him, but I never got there. So I'm excited to watch him play, because I don't think he'll get sacked very many times, because he gets rid of the ball so stinking fast.
Is that what you saw today too? And
that's
the first 2 days.
Of course. Yep.
I was telling you this last weekend, Cease. There was a common note that would go into my notebook. Would have been a sack under game conditions from practices. I feel like I wrote that a lot with a lot of recent Bronco quarterbacks.
Sure.
I don't think we're going to be saying that with Bo Nix as much. And I do think it's going to be interesting to evaluate the pass rushers when they're going against a quarterback who's simply getting the ball out faster. So it's going to be a little bit of a character test for these guys, that they're going to maybe do everything right, but they're not going to have the carrot at the end that involves celebrating a sack, at least not as often as they had in previous years. So that's going to be a test. And I think Jonah Ellis is probably best prepared for it, because he had that game. By the way, because I referred to the streak of the run of 8 sacks in 4 games. The quarterback and the team that stopped that was Oregon. Oregon facing Utah last year. Oregon trounced Utah in Salt Lake City 35-6. Jonah Ellis kept off the stat sheet entirely after wreaking havoc for the previous 4 games and bursting onto a lot of draft radars. Says a lot. And by the way, the week after that, against Arizona State, 2 sacks.
Right.
For Jonah Ellis. He got right back on the horse. But Bo Nix and the Oregon offense is what diffused that. So I think he's prepared for what's going to happen in practice, but also it's a it's the resilience of Jonah Ellis not getting down after literally zeros across the board. No quarterback hits, no sacks, no TFLs, no tackles. I mean, just completely blanked because Bo Nix was getting the ball out so quickly.
Yeah, and that Ducks just show up and just want to steamroll you. That's what they did in Boulder. It's what they did to you. Like, we're just show up and just going to trounce you.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter who you got.
Utah went the same after that.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's interesting, man. It's interesting to know, how do players work through the frustration, because you're not going to get to Bo Nix. Sorry, Jarrett Stidham. They're going to take it out on you.
But even so, yeah, I mean, and Stidham can do the rhythm and timing things, but we also saw in that Raider game, for example, he was holding on to it. So, yeah, that's another thing. Shoot, when you think about what this quarterback competition is going to look like, we've seen an indication that Stidham will hold on to it too long and get punished. Although that was also the Cam Fleming game.
Right.
Where I'd like to think that Broncos country gained an appreciation for Mike McGlinchey because it was the one game McGlinchey was out and they put Cam Fleming in and Fleming was just overrun. That's why he's not on this team right now.
It can get worse.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Because it did. One quick note before we're out of here, and it doesn't really have to do with Jonah Elliss, but I'm just thinking of Nick's getting rid of the ball quickly. Guy like Garrett Bowles, whatever his future holds, he's probably going to look really good this year. One, it's Bowles in his game, but also Nick's just, he's not going to get sacked much.
So you've got Bo Nix playing the season, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see. Long way to go.
We'll see.
And as I said on Twitter, I think it's weak sauce when people are like, I don't know, there's a long way to go. Obviously there is, but we have to tell you about what we observed. Logically and rationally reasoned, Mace. And that's what we do.
It looked good last week, and there will be days when it looks bad.
Mm-hmm.
There will be bad games.
Yes.
You know, if he starts the entire season, he will have a stinker or two.
There'll be a losing streak. You know,
Yes.
What do you do then? I know Nix isn't going to change. He's going to stay steady with what he does.
He might play well and you lose games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we'll discuss this on a future show, but what's the better outcome? 9-8 and you don't get answers on Bo Nix and you get to the playoffs, or 5-12 and you get the answer on Bo Nix and you find out he's the quarterback of the future. Honestly, I'd take 5-12.
Mm-hmm.
This is about finding out about Bo Nix this year.
Yep.
This is it.
Figure it out and get it done. Jonah Elliss going to be one fun one to watch for y'all in training camp. And Mace, fun to watch us here on YouTube, but we need your help. So how can they best help us out?
By liking,
Comment,
sharing,
subscribe,
and hitting that notification bell.
so that you never
miss
a
bit.
vid. I noticed when I was rough last week, I was like, I can't go off script. I have to stay on script or else my brain like melts.
Routine is a thing.
Repetition, right?
Yes. Hey, we repeat stuff. They repeat stuff on the field. The more you do it, ideally, the better you get at it.
The more you know. And
Dun,
knowing.
dun, dun, dun.
He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at C Salami saying OBT is a BFD. Thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned and stay frosty.